Fantastic. Good evening, everyone. You are very welcome to MU Live. My name is Fionnuala Finnegan, and I am the Student Recruitment Officer at Maynooth University. I work in the admissions office. I'm delighted to welcome and be joined this evening by Dr. Tuvana Pastine, who is the head of department in the economics department at Maynooth. Doughton, who is a current third-year student studying economics. He came through the MH101 Bachelor of Arts route. We are joined by a former student, Coffey, who studied the PPE in Maynooth and then did an MSc in economics and now works in the ESRI. I do apologize. I'm also joined by my colleague from the admissions office, Deirdre Carroll, who will keep her camera off for the meantime, and she will help us with any technological issues that we have in the night, and hopefully there will be none of those. So I'm delighted to welcome you all here. The session is being recorded, so for anyone who would like a recording, you can just send an email into admissions@mu.ie and we will send you on of the copy of the recording once it has been edited and finalized. If you have any questions for us, folks, and we do hope that you have plenty of questions to ask us, you can see that in the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A section. So if you'd like to pop your question in there, either to myself or to Tuvana or Doughton or Cahill, please do that and we will have a little chat after the presentation. In the meantime, I might drop some links into our website and other bits and pieces into the chat function. But if you could keep the Q&A for questions, that would be great. Now, I have talked far too much, so without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Dr. Tuvana Pastine, who is going to tell you all about why you should study economics at Maynooth University. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. Let me see. I think I'm sharing at the moment. Can you see my slide?
Absolutely. I can see your slide. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. First of all, Fionnuala, thank you very much for organizing this event. I know it takes a lot of time to organize events like this, and welcome to everyone. And I also must say that I completely appreciate the technology that brings you all to my living room at 7 o'clock, 7:50 in the evening. You're very much welcome. So let me see. So I started recording on my end as well. Fionnuala, if things go wrong, we'll have 2 recordings. And so today we're going to talk about economics. And I bet you have a lot of questions. But there might be latecomers. So I'm going to start with a business technology story while we are waiting for latecomers. And this one is about Yahoo. So Yahoo has about 3% of the world market in the to access to internet. So for instance, like Google, like Bing, it's a search engine. And Google has about 90% of the world market share, but this wasn't always the case. It used to be that Yahoo had about 20% of the world market share and Google had only 60%. This decline in the market share that that Yahoo experienced from 20% to 3% coincided with a scandal that hit Yahoo, and you might have heard about it. The CEO of Yahoo, the top guy, the head guy, the president of Yahoo at the time, it turns out he had lied in his CV, he had lied in his resume about his educational background. And during the same scandal, it came out that one of the directors of the board of directors lied in her CV about having a degree in economics when she did not study economics. And so you might be thinking at this moment, well, what makes economics such a prestigious subject, such a prestigious degree for this director of the board of directors to want to lie about it in her resume. Well, let's see if I can move the slides. Yes, I can. Yes. Well, economists are perceived as analytically competent people, and they have an understanding of social issues and the real world. And they're typically known to be good at communicating ideas. And I would say that's a golden combination. And if you look at Standard & Poor's 500 CEOs, so these are the top 500 companies in US in the stock market, traded in the stock market. When you look at their CEOs, their top guys, economics majors are more likely to become a CEO than any other major. So I would say probably this director of the board of directors had very high ambitions and not going back to school, she just chose to lie in her CV about it. Okay, so you have questions, as I said, I bet. What is economics? Would it be fun to study economics? What are future career options if you study economics? What are the degrees on offer at the economics department at Maynooth University? What are the differences between these degrees? And which one is the right one for you? So I'm gonna give a very quick answer to the degrees on offer question, and I'm gonna come back to the others during my presentation. We offer 3 degrees: Bsc Economics, BA in International Finance and Economics, and you can also study economics as a single or double major through BA Arts, MH 101. I'm going to spend more time on Bsc Economics than any other programs because Bsc Economics is new and there will be less knowledge out there about it. You might have friends and teachers who already know about the other 2 programs a lot, but Bsc Economics needs a little bit of an introduction, deserves introduction, because the new students will be the first students in September coming to our department. And I should also say that leaving cert economics is not a requirement for any of these degrees. So if you didn't have economics in your school, no problem. If you had economics in your school but didn't study it, still no problem. You had economics but didn't take the leaving cert in it, no problem. Economics is not a requirement. Okay, so the study of economics is about evaluating alternatives and about making good choices, both in business and in public sector. It develops, the economic study develops critical thinking, and it builds technical skills to be able to make use of the existing information, to be able to come up with the good answers, with the good choices. I know this is a little bit too abstract, but I'm going to give you examples pretty soon, and I think hopefully it will become clearer. Economics is exciting, it is important, and it is rewarding. And I will talk about each of these. Probably the exciting bit, well, I'm excited about it, and hopefully Kahil and Dotun can talk about the economics being an exciting journey studying it. Okay, so learning about how markets work, how rules affect equilibrium outcomes, and how economic forces drive social systems. These equipped the economics majors with skills to solve challenging, pressing problems, such as poverty, such as unemployment, gender and racial inequality, financial instability, such as climate change. And these skills are desired both in public and in the private sector. So economics majors work as consultants, as fund managers, as investment bankers, as journalists, as policymakers, as teachers, and you name it. So formulating economists, when they're formulating public policy, they have an evidence-based decision making. with true understanding of incentives that face the agents. And if an economist doesn't have this, we could see the Cobra Effect. Now you're going to say, what is the Cobra Effect? Well, this terminology, Cobra Effect, comes from a historical anecdote. The British colonial government in India hated the venomous cobras, and they decided to eradicate the cobras, and so they chose to give monetary price for each dead cobra. And guess what happened? I bet you are thinking to yourself, well, the Indian business owners, Indian entrepreneurs started cobra farms, and they saw money roll in. So this is an example of the British colonial government not understanding the true incentives that are faced by the economic situation in India, and it completely backfired. And this is very important. Understanding and basing it on an evidence is very important for policy making, because imagine, for instance, we're talking about unemployment benefits. Well, you're going to give an unemployment benefit in order to keep the unemployed from poverty, but how much should that unemployment benefit be? If it's too little, it will put people to poverty. If it's too much, then people will simply not look for a job. So it should not de-incentivize people from searching for a job. Should we have universal basic income scheme? If we do, what would be the effects of it on the economy, on the society? How do we improve international cooperation for environmental protection? How do we improve the public health system in Ireland? What does the future hold for cryptocurrencies? Well, how shall we regulate political campaign spending to improve the quality of our democracy? The last question is a question that I work on in my research. So I think you see that economics is not so much about subject matter. It's more about how to think analytically. So it gives you a discipline of thinking and how to evaluate problems with a scientific approach. You can also think of economists as engineering solutions. So they take the economics principles and then they look at a problem and they tailor a solution to the very specifics of the problem. So, for instance, I should talk about Muhammad Yunus in this case. It's a good example. You have a society with some poor people, the poorest of the poor. And it may be that they have a good business idea. This business idea is going to make them go up in terms of their financial situation. The business idea is possibly going to create employment for other people. And the business idea is selling a service or a product, so the consumers are going to get happier because of this business idea being put into use. But this poor person has no access to credit markets, which means if they go to a bank, the bank is not going to give them a loan because they don't have a credit history and they don't have a collateral. In that case, poor people stay poor and the bank only gives loans to the rich people. So this is a problem that Muhammad Yunus saw, and he tailored a solution. It's called the Grameen Bank, the microcredit solution, for Bangladesh, for the case of Bangladesh. And it became such a success story that it is now implemented in very many countries, very many developing countries. And Muhammad Yunus got the Peace Prize. He's an economist, he's at the World Bank, but he got the Peace Prize because if people feel like there is upward mobility, then there is peace in the society. And if some groups of people feel there is no upward mobility ever, then there isn't. So you see that the problem is a very big one, important one, with major future repercussions, And so Muhammad Yunus simply implemented a very basic idea that got the Nobel Economics Prize at some point, but implemented it and well-deserved prize. Well, economists are also in high demand in the private sector because the firms want to analyze consumer behavior. The firms want to also analyze potential competitor behavior before they can make a decision about their product line, about their advertising strategy, about their pricing strategy. And I have worked on the advertising strategy and pricing strategy in my research. And you can also think of, for instance, you need the economists to create the best incentive system to motivate the employees for the particular needs of the particular employer. So problems are everywhere. And as long as you have a good mind to be able to understand the information available, the constraints and the incentives of people, then you can solve the problems, at least in some cases, and you need an economist, so both private sector and public sector is very much aware of it. Well, what is the value of an economics degree? Let's talk money. So the salaries of economists outpace business majors, other social science majors and engineers, so they are very well paid. This is coming from the UK data and US data. I think in 10 years in the career, the salaries on average double within 10 years. And I think that one is from US. But here is one from Ireland. And let me look at my screen over here. Salaries for economics graduates are among the highest of any discipline. But you can see why. I mean, if there is a problem and if there is a solution, the value is very high. So the companies and the public sector is going to be, of course, willing to pay for the analytical minds to solve the problems. Okay, so what degrees do we offer? As I said, we have 3 degrees, and these 3 degrees are offered in the economics department, and the economics department consists of faculty members who have excellence in research. The department is among the top 8% of the worldwide research institutions, and it makes a difference to learn economics from the creators of knowledge. Research means creating knowledge, and it really makes a difference to learn it from the creators of knowledge, to read the papers of people who wrote the papers themselves. The department also has an influence on the policy making in Ireland. For instance, Aidan Doris, Professor Donald O'Neill, they have been shaping the pensions and the minimum wages, major contributions to minimum wage regulation by Donald O'Neill. And again, this knowledge of real world applications of economics ideas into the economics of Ireland makes lectures much more interesting for the students. It makes it real. And the faculty is devoted to teaching, and they go beyond what is required from them. There's a lot of volunteer activity going on. We have student seminars. These are voluntary events. We set them up and people come in if they like to the events. And this year we also have workshops for students. We finished our GIS workshop recently, and next term we're going to have a big data and machine learning workshop. And these workshops are like this event. We set them up. We say, well, 4 weeks, every week there will be 1.5 hours. Come in if you like. There's no grades, there's no passing. It just brings all the people together who want to learn something. And the GIS workshop actually brought tears into my eyes because we had alumni who have been out working for the last 20 years. We had first-year undergraduate students. We had master's students all together in the workshop where they wanted to learn GIS, which they didn't know before, which is now important in the employment place potential. Okay, so let's come to the programs, and I'm gonna focus on what might be good for you, what sort of person you are, and what might be good, which program might be good for you. But first of all, let me say, Erasmus study abroad option is valid, is there for all three programs. So you can go abroad and study abroad for a year, usually after the second year, in the third year, and then come back and finish your studies in the third year. And the requirements of the programs are in the MU handbook. Let's see. I'm sure you can't see what it's writing here. So it says the Maynooth University website, and then it says study menus, and then here you go to download prospectus booklets, and you can see the details of the programs. And maybe, Finola, can you maybe put this to the messages as a link?
Absolutely, I will do it right away, Tuvana. Good call.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's start with BA International Finance and Economics. Who should study? So you see this CAO code, it's MH401IFE. Well, you should study this one if you know you want to work in banking or, stock market. Because this program has a higher compulsory credit count of finance in it. And another thing about this program is it has mandatory study abroad or work placement if it's available. So if you want to study Spanish, German, I don't know, Chinese, I'm not sure exactly which languages are on offer at the moment, but you can look up the specifications of the program. Then this program is going to be for you. So it has an international window. We want the students to not only think of Ireland, but think internationally, especially if you are the finance type. You can also study economics through BA Arts, MH101. Who should do this? Well, if you want to have a multidisciplinary education, so you like economics, but you also like sociology. You like economics, but you also like law. You like economics, but you also like, I don't know, geography. In that case, probably this degree is for you. You can do a double major, for instance. One of your majors would be economics, the other one would be the other subject. Or MH101 is a good idea if you absolutely have no idea what to study. If you say, I have no idea, I want to take 4 different subjects in my first year and see which one I like. So MH101 is the one for you, I would say. So MH101, the admissions office does a great job in describing it to the students, and it's a bit of a difficult one to describe because it's a very flexible program. But basically in the first year there's the huge variety of subjects, maybe 20 subjects or so, including economics. And so after the first year, if you like economics, you continue it. If you don't like it, you simply drop it, or you can take it as a minor as well. But I'm not going to talk much about MH101 because, as I said, admissions office creates these beautiful videos about MH101, and I think they are more knowledgeable about it than myself because I only know the economics part. So, Bsc Economics, this is the one I want to talk about because this is our new program, and we created this program last year as I was the department head, so I feel like it's, it has my work on it. As well as the whole department. It's a Bachelor's of Science degree. So what that means is it's a technical degree. So there will be statistics, there will be programming, there will be econometrics early on in the program. And so if you're a mathsy person and you have a passion for solving these pressing economic, socioeconomic problems, then this program is for you. We started this new program because of the feedback we received from our advisory board of the economics department. Now, the board consists of top institutions in Ireland that monitor the Irish economy very closely. So Central Bank, the CSO, Central Statistics Office, and the advisors are top ranking individuals in these organizations. And we asked them about the market trends. We said, what do you want? Right? Because we're going to have students come in. We're going to give them a formation. They're going to come out. What is it that you want? And they all, each and every one of them said they want people with technical skills who will be able to deal with big data. There's a lot of data available now, and there's the computing power as well. And there's a lot that can be inferred from the data, and they want people to be able to do this. So not just economic analysis as we teach, but also more of the quantitative side of the subject they want. And so that wasn't possible in BA Economics. We had to start a BSc, Bachelor's of Science degree. So in Bsc Economics, we put the students on a path to become professional economists. So if you envision going for a master's degree, yes, this program is for you. This is an integrated program with MSc Economics. And I believe this is the first integrated program with a master's degree in Maynooth University Faculty of Social Sciences. The default path is going from BSc to MSc Economics. BSc, the bare bones of the program is 3 years. After you finish 3 years, you can not continue if you don't like. But you'll have the option of continuing to MSc Economics, which is an additional 1 full year, and graduate as a professional economist. So default path from BSc to MSc, you can graduate with BSc only, and there's also the Erasmus study abroad option available here. Now, the Bsc Economics people are going to be treated as MSc students in training, and they will have an academic mentor from day one, and it's going to be a small group. It's going to be only 20 students. And the benefits of MSc after a BSc, well, there's a few. One of them is it pushes you up to a higher entry level as you enter a job. Secondly, you advance more quickly. So the career path is steep. And according to UK data, if you're a man going to a master's degree will add another 9% increase to your annual earnings. And if you're a woman, that increases 19%. But it's not just about money. The job satisfaction increases as well, because you jump any job comes with a little bit of, administrative work, entering data, etc. But you end up jumping this much quicker, and you end up doing more satisfactory job that affects policy, and if you go to business, that will shape the path of a business. And well, there are some jobs that do need MSc, the professional economist jobs. So for instance, Central Bank of Ireland wouldn't typically take someone without the MSc degree. And so there are some high-paying, high-caliber jobs that do necessitate the master's degree. So the way we designed the program is we emphasized independent research at every stage of the program, first year, second year, third year. And students are going to flourish based on individual curiosity and strengths. And we also have a multidisciplinary approach. Every single year, students will be able to take a variety of subjects from a variety of disciplines, such as sociology, law, computer science, and this will, we believe, allow synergies in research. You can also do languages, but only 2 languages, either German or Spanish. So the economics department is very proud of the postgrad alumni. I bet you can't read this list of very many organizations and companies like the Goodbody, KPMG, the Central Bank, European Central Bank, ESRI, very, very good organizations, and our graduates rise up very quickly in the career ladder. But an important thing that we started is now students will be able to have an alumni guidance family. So a student is going to match up with an alumni member, and they will continue with that member, and they will get guidance throughout their studies and when they go and find a job, which we think is going to be very beneficial. So if you're still not sure about whether to study economics or not, I'm going to recommend you 2 books. One of them is Freakonomics, a very much fun read book by an economist and a journalist, and it talks about match fixing in professional sumo, parental influence on children's life outcomes, legalization of abortion, its effects on crime rates. So as you can see, economics is not about the subject matter. Again, it's about the way we analyze. And another one is Game Theory, a graphic guide, a very easy read with lots of pictures. And again, there are examples from the stock market crash to social norms. So any environment where there is strategic interaction, the game theory is a good tool to analyze that, and the book will cover that. Well, by the end of tonight, actually, it's very dark now outside, if you enter a draw by sending an email to this email address, economicsdep, then we have a few Freakonomics books, a few introducing game theory books, and we have a few MU hoodies, and we'll be very happy to include your name to the draw. And after the open days are over, we're gonna let the winners find out about what they won, if they won. So I think this brings me to the end of my talk, and it does bring me half an hour. So I think I have no time left, and I should give the floor to Kahal and Dotun. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tuvana. Just before we move on to our lovely guests, would it be possible to pose 2 quick questions for you?
Yes.
Do we know the points for the economics, for the Bsc Economics? Not as yet.
It's a new degree, so we don't know. Am I sharing my screen with you? Do you see me?
Oh, sorry, I've just pulled up the... Yes, I can still see you. Yeah, I could see your slides as well.
All right. It's a new degree, so there's no minimum points, but we do have a math requirement, either ordinary level 1 or H5 or better in math.
Thank you so much. I suppose a good guideline might be potentially the points that are for the international finance and economics.
No, I think it's going to have to be
a little bit higher, quantitative finance. So we could give a benchmark 370.
What is quantitative finance?
To 476, there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Good. You like that?
Maybe 450. Yeah.
Maybe 450. Hard to know because folks.
It's hard to know because
we don't know.
Because we have a quota of 20. So if it turns out that a lot of people applied with very good living cert grades, then it will be higher. So there is no minimum like that. So look, if you like it, apply. So don't, I think sometimes I hear people saying, I got into my first choice. That's nothing. I mean, don't worry about it. It's okay not to get into your first choice. Sometimes it's okay to get to your third choice. Maybe third choice is the best choice. Just put down if you like it. It works, it doesn't work. Life is interesting. Sometimes when it doesn't work and you're sad about it, but the other thing turns out to be much better. So put it down without worrying about the points if you like it.
Again, my old trick of still talking and being mute. The last question now, and we'll move on to the lads. And the questions are coming in, folks. It's just I'd love you to hear from our other two guests as well. But we will absolutely take any questions at the end. So do keep them coming in.
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah.
I'll mute myself and
great.
I'll start my video.
Fantastic. And we'll hear from Cathal and Dota next. So Cathal, can you talk to us a little bit about, I know you mentioned before we went live tonight that you studied PPE, and I suppose for those who don't know, that is politics, philosophy and economics. How did you come to those subjects?
Perfect. I'll chat about that now. Just to say thanks to everybody for logging on, and thanks to the university for organizing this event this evening. And thanks to Tuvana for that fantastic presentation. So yeah, a bit about me. My name is Cathal. I went to secondary school in Kildare. Did the Leaving Cert in 2015. And when I was sitting down in the position that a lot of you are in now, thinking about where to go and what to do, I kind of boiled it down to my interests. So I thought, and this is how I ultimately ended up studying PPE. I was always fascinated with how the world around me worked, more so interested in that than I was in other things like, how I worked as a human, so biology or whatever. I was always more interested in how the systems around me that govern my life were working. So whether they're economic, financial, political, religious, philosophical, these things, they always interested me. And that's what drew me to PPE. That's what I liked about the degree. I suppose if you break it down, politics, I suppose, ideologies and the systems of decision-making and law-making that govern our lives. Philosophy, an awful lot of times you'll find the answer to the question why. You might not be happy with it, but you might find an answer to it. If you go down the philosophical route, it's the answer to why for a lot of questions, or it's often you can trace where society's values have emerged from over time. The history of thought as well, it's worth studying if only for that. And so just while I can plug it, I will. So if any of you do that degree that Tuvana talked you through, I would encourage you to do something outside of economics and finance. You'll be doing plenty of that anyway. So if you have the opportunity to do something else, do a language, do philosophy, do sociology, do something to spice it up a bit. And it'll introduce you to things that you haven't really come across before, especially coming from secondary school where the curriculums are quite set and where you don't really get exposed to things like philosophy, sociology, anthropology, or even a broader range of languages. So I'd encourage you to do something like that, but that's enough of that plug for now. So yeah, that's kind of politics. That was philosophy. And then economics. Well, I was always interested in how this thing called the economy worked, and because it seems to govern so much of our lives, whether it's, how our state is performing, what the government can spend money on, what our earning prospects are like. It governs so much of our lives. I was interested in how it worked. And that's why I settled on politics, economics, and philosophy. Now, why did I settle on Maynooth? I enjoyed the variety that Maynooth offered me. So doing the PPE degree in Maynooth, Maynooth allowed me to do all 3 subjects right up until my final year. And that's something I really valued because I didn't really want to pick one to abandon. Which is what you have to do when you study such similar degrees elsewhere. You'll have to narrow your focus as time goes on. And that's why I chose Maynooth over anywhere else. That was the main reason why I picked Maynooth and put it down on my CAO form. But I also went to the open days, went to the ones in Trinity and elsewhere. And I liked the campus in Maynooth and I liked the people in Maynooth. I found the lecturers and the students that I interacted with to be engaging, to be friendly, to be welcoming. And I like the atmosphere. So combining my interests, my want for variety and general atmosphere and the staff, I picked Maynooth, put it down as my first choice. and thankfully I got it. So that's kind of how I ended up doing PPE and how I ended up in Maynooth.
Thanks so much. Had you done economics in Leaving Cert at
I
all in
did.
secondary school?
I
You
did.
had?
I did.
Okay, yeah. Because a question came in and I think it ties in nicely. For someone who potentially does not have the economics background, how hard would you say it is? Or for a lay person like me, Tuvana was mentioning some fabulous books, and I want to know, as a staff member, can I enter that competition? Probably not. But like, if I was to go and purchase one of those books, would I find it like way over my head, or how relatable is it, I suppose?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. I suppose answer your initial question about do you need economics coming from the or you absolutely don't. You really don't. The theory is covered again because it's not assumed that you have it. You go over the same stuff. I think you'll find that the college curriculum is updated more frequently than the Leaving Cert one. So a lot of the stuff that you might catch in the Leaving Cert might not be as relevant as it was when it was initially said, maybe 30 odd years ago or whatever. So a lot of the stuff that you'll do in college is fresher. You'll recognize some things that you've seen before, which, to be quite honest, they'll be explained much better and much clearer. No, absolutely not necessary. And it's needless to say, it's not going to be a hindrance, but it's not an essential. And if you were to pick up any of those books, that book on game theory, for example, or the other ones, you'll find them very engaging. I mean, there can be a lot of maths in economics if you want to pursue that end of it, but you don't have to. Plenty of it is there's plenty of economics to go around, and there's plenty of it you can engage with without getting bogged down in some mad maths.
Amazing.
So you don't need.
That's excellent. And I suppose in the same vein, would accountancy help, or is it not related?
I wouldn't say it's unrelated, but I don't think it'd be a hindrance. But a familiarity with numbers is always going to be, I suppose, a bonus. But at the same time, whether you have it or not, it's not really going to impact your study in economics, because the lecturers don't assume that you have any of these things. They're not going to test you on something they haven't taught you. So they're going to take you through what you need to know one way or another. And then, of course, there's tutorials as well. So you'll have that environment. I used to teach tutorials when I was doing my master's. So you'll have that environment there to interact with somebody and ask questions and do all that on a slightly smaller scale than you would in the large lecture halls.
Amazing. Thanks so much. I might just ask Dalton then, how he obviously came in through 101. What was your journey like, Dalton? How did you find yourself in a single major economics?
So my name is Dalton. I'm a third year student in Maynooth. I study single major. And when I first started college, before I started, my favorite subjects in secondary school were economics and accountancy. And I also liked law. So when I wanted to put down what course I wanted to do my CAO, I wasn't sure if I was going to do law, accountancy, or economics. So due to that, I saw the arts program in Maynooth and I decided that would probably be the best for me, doing all three of them and then deciding whichever, if I want to keep two or if I want to just do one. So when I first started in first year, I did law, I did accountancy, and I did economics. And economics was my favorite because it's just the most interesting to me. You get to see stuff and learn stuff that you see on the news and just how the world works. And it was just the perfect thing for me. It's just really good. And another thing about economics, the difference between economics and the other subjects I chose is with economics, there are just so many options. If you study accountancy, for example, more than likely you're going to end up in some sort of financial firm or something related to finance. And if you study in law, you're more than likely going to be in a law firm. Whereas if you're studying economics, there's just so many options. So that's the main reason why I decided to do that. Like, you can go into health, you can go into finance, you could go into basically any field because everything needs economics. So that's why I decided to choose economics as a single major. And I honestly don't regret it. It was probably the best decision I made. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. So what kind of subjects do you study within the economics single major? What does macroeconomics, and do you do econometrics? Because I know that's in the new degree. And what are those subjects?
Yeah. So you do micro, you do macro, you do econometrics as well. For microeconomics is more like learning about how smaller things work, like how firms work, how pricing, how like systems work around us, like different things. And you learn cool stuff like game theory and microeconomics. While as macroeconomics is more about like the economy in general, like taxing, like just different countries and all of that. And econometrics is like statistics. You learn statistical methods, and then you go on to learn regressions and different things, and you get to use cool programming software like Stata to do these certain things. And you also learn a lot of different other modules, like many of them will be split between micro and macro. So for example, there's other options like sport economics, there's like economics and crime, there's information economics, economics and work and life decisions, and it's just so many different things. And there's just so many options. So you're spoiled for choice, to be honest.
That's great. Thank you so much. And are you going to follow Cahill's route? And would you consider doing the MSc, the Masters in Economics, Dalton?
Yeah, I do want to do a postgrad in economics. I'm not 100% sure which I want to do, but I've been looking around in Maynooth and also in other universities, and I'm thinking of doing a master's. There's a master's in economics, there's a master's in economics and financial risk, and there's just loads of different options. There's also in other places like health economics or quantitative economics, and I'm just applying all around right now, and then at the end of the year I'll decide where I want to go and what I want to do.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you so much. We have a good few questions coming in that I might just start answering, and then we can go back and have a little chat about briefly, maybe some differences between economics and business, and how you're finding your job, Cahill, and maybe what the learning you got in the classroom applies to your work placement. We'll try and squeeze it all in now in the next 15 minutes. So someone has asked a very relevant question is, what are the points like for the arts route? I can talk a little bit about that, I suppose, because I work in the admissions office. So the points for the arts are really generous. They're 338. You do need a pass in Irish, English, and a third language if you're a Leaving Cert student. If you do have a language exemption, folks, that's no problem at all. Just make sure that you forward that onto the CAO, and you can apply for that via NUI. Okay, so for anyone who might need the third language exemption. So I hope that answers that one for you. Another question has come in. Maybe Tuvana might be able to answer this. What are the contact hours per week? Now, it doesn't specify whether it's for the new degree or for the arts degree. So maybe we try with the new degree.
It's the same for all degrees. Pinolo, you're better at numbers than me. All degrees have the same number of credits in each year, and each module meets twice a week with the lecturer, and then in some cases there will be tutorials, 1 or 2 tutorials a week. So there are 12 weeks in every term. There are 2 terms so what would be 5 modules? Is it total? How many modules do you take this term? 5?
6 modules, and well, 12 modules, 6 each semester.
Okay, so that would be 12 hours in the lectures, and then also tutorials, depending on the module.
Amazing. Of course, I should have just asked Dalton because he's studying on the degree. That's madness. So sorry. So what would you say, Dalton? I mean, it could be slightly different as a third year because you're doing the single major in the subject. So for someone maybe who comes into 101 and they might be dividing it up between their 2 other subjects, you know, maybe, I don't know, like benchmark, what, 15 or 20 contact hours?
It depends on what you do, and because each course, the tutorials are kind of different. For me in first year, and we had about I'll say 15 to 20 hours, because you had for me, I had accounting labs and I had tutorials as well. And then I had tutorials in law and tutorials in economics. But as you go second and third year, it's a bit less, but it's kind of more work. For example, in third year, it's less contact hours, but I'm also writing a thesis. So you have to use the time you have, like the spare time, to write the thesis. So it might be less hours, but it's kind of more work.
Yeah, I get you. Thanks so much. I hope that's answered your question for you.
I was gonna say that
Yeah.
this 12 hours, 15 hours of contact hours, it sounds like it's not a full-time. This is a full-time study. These are full-time studies. And in the university, what you're learning is also to learn by yourself. So just 12 contact hours actually means a lot of work for the students. So when a student ends up working somewhere more than 10 hours, typically the academic performance ends up suffering. So you need to think of it as really a full-time job.
Yeah, because your contact hours really are not including, as Dalton mentioned, any research, any assignments, any study time. That's just your basic going to your lecture and that kind of thing. There's a lot of work, a lot of reading around it that you will have to do. That's the bare minimum, basically, folks.
So lectures give guidance for your study, and that's it. So the true learning happens by yourself, typically, but with the guidance of the lecturers.
Fantastic. Another one has come in. Is there work experience in the new Bsc Economics, Tuvana? Will there be work placement involved?
This is a new degree, and the Erasmus and study abroad is optional. You can do that. We're working on work placement. So no promises, but it's something that I'm working on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope that answers your question. Oh, yes. So I think we kind of touched on it a little bit. Someone has asked, would you have time for a part-time job if you're going into your final year or not? I suppose Dalton is probably best placed to answer that. And maybe Cathal can chip in. I don't know whether he did any work when he was studying.
For the final year, originally, I had to change jobs because you have to have less hours per se, because especially, for example, the thesis, and there's loads of just different assignments, but you still have time. You just have to be very disciplined with the amount of time. So if you're working in the weekends, you have to make sure that during the weekdays you're getting stuff done. Obviously, you still have time to have a life, but you have to be very disciplined. So yeah, there is time, but you have to be very strict with your timing and your studying.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. I just wanted to hear how Cathal is getting on in the ESRI, and then we'll take the last two questions that have come. Actually, there's three before we wrap up. And just before we hear from Cathal again, thank you so much, Dalton. Anyone who would like a recording needs to send an email to the admissions, admissions, at mu.ie. Okay. I just don't know if I've made a typo there. Maybe Deirdre can check to make sure I haven't written it wrong. Thank you so much. So Cathal, after your master's, how did you get the job that you're in at the moment?
Well, I suppose this links on to something that Tuvana mentioned earlier, and it's one of the reasons that I enjoyed Maynooth, and it's one of the reasons why I stayed on to do the master's there, is that the lecturers are wonderful and they do take an interest in you as a student. And that is it. When a lecturer took an interest in me and said, Cathal, I've heard of a job, I've seen it advertised, I think it might be worth sending your CV in there. My thesis supervisor, Dr. Aideen Darcy, you've seen a photo of her in the presentation. She said, Cathal, I think this might be a good fit for you, when I was doing my master's. So I sent in the CV, got called in for the job interview. Obviously it went all right and I ended up there. So I started late 2019 in there, I think. September, October 2019, I'd have started there. It is a requirement to have a master's degree to get in. So that's one of the examples of a job where you need a minimum of a master's degree to get in. So I work as a researcher in the ESRI. I work on the macro and housing team. So we produce reports essentially. So the ESRI is like a think tank or research institute. And it's, again, as Tuvana said, problem solving a lot of the time. Sometimes it's commentary, sometimes it's problem solving. So I'm part of a team that produces a quarterly report, kind of takes an overview of the whole economy, and we put it out every 3 months, kind of say, this is where we've come from, this is where we think we're going to go, across a range of indicators, labor market, consumption, imports, exports, all that good stuff, public finances. Also on the housing team. So one of the examples I think is nice is earlier on in the pandemic, when the pandemic initially struck, the Department of Housing came to the ESRI and they said, look, there's an awful lot of people have to be made unemployed. We're worried. Are the rental supports and the income supports that the state have introduced going to be enough to stop a huge spike in rent arrears? And that was a question that I was part of the team, and we tackled that. We had a look at it. So we looked at it. Now it turned out the PUP was quite generous, and you haven't seen or heard of a spike in rental arrears in the media. So it turned out that the supports kind of did their job, but at the start that wasn't clear whether they would or they wouldn't. So that was a question that we tackled. Some of the other work we do is looking at rent pressure zones and where they're designated and their impact, whether they're working or not. So it's again problem solving, stuff like that. Some of my colleagues, a couple of them went to Oxford, a couple of them went to Trinity, a couple of them went to UCD. I'm from Maynooth. So we're all doing the same work. And I know some of those colleges, you don't need me to say it. Some of them have, certainly Oxford anyway, has a more prestigious name than Maynooth. But I did my degree in Maynooth. We've all landed in the same place. So I wouldn't let that put you off picking Maynooth. Have I left anything else about work? No, I think I've probably given I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, you've given a super comprehensive overview of what you do. Amazing. Thank you so much. A question in here, I suppose, would the BA in economics and maths lead directly to the postgrad in international finance, or what else could you do from the BA economics and maths? Maybe Tuvana might be best placed, or anyone who might feel from your experience.
So this would be MH 101, economics and maths.
Correct, yes.
Well, this is a good path. This is a good path to masters. Yes, recommend it. So like Bsc Economics does a lot of quantitative stuff, but so does math. So, yep, go ahead. It wouldn't be automatic. You would have to apply, and you do have to get a 2-1, I think, at the very least. But look, if you want to do a master's, if you're interested in postgrad, it means you are an interested student. So I bet you can manage it.
Yeah, and there is obviously a cost for the master's program, Tuvana.
Yeah, if you are in financial help during your undergrad, you can continue to be so in postgrad. There may be some scholarships from the university, but look, if you don't have the money, go ahead and borrow from the bank. The numbers I showed you with 19% for women, 9% for men, lifetime earnings, it will pay off.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tuvana, for clarifying that. A question has come in here for Cathal. Do the ESRI fund your masters? Do you know? Well, you obviously got your job after your masters, but do you know, is there such a thing as graduate entry?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the ESRI fund your master's degree. I needed the master's before I got in. Although one thing I will mention is Maynooth do scholarships. You can get academic scholarships for your master's. I received one of them. When I was doing my program, reduced the fees a bit, so that can also help if you're but no, the ESRI don't, they don't pay for your masters.
Also in masters, we often have master's students teaching tutorials to undergrads, like Cathal was one of our best tutors, so that helps a bit too. So
fantastic.
Sometimes master's students work in the summer. Look, it's masters. It's challenging, but it's rewarding.
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. So one last question has come in. Is there a difference between the Bsc Economics and the BA Economics single MH 101 other than the title?
Yeah, there is a difference. So you can think of it this way. In Bsc Economics, we front load students with the quantitative, with the technical skills like the statistics and programming. It comes very early on, like in the first year. Whereas in BA, arts, MH101, you take only 2 economics modules, microeconomics and macroeconomics, and then you move on to your second year and third year. But because it's front-loaded, then we can do more in the second year with the BSc students. We can do more with the BSc students in the third year. So there is more of a quantitative nature to the program. A lot of the elective modules are common. It's just the quantitative nature that makes it a Bachelor's of Science rather than arts.
Thank you so much. Folks, we have come to the end of our evening. I can hardly believe it. That was really, really interesting. Thank you so, so much to Dr. Tuvana Pastine for that really interesting presentation, for Dalton, our current Maynooth University student, and for Cathal also, who has given us a really good perspective on, you know, where you can envision yourself with a good master's and with a good quality degree with economics as your foundation. If anyone has any questions, you can email admissions@mu.ie, or I've put my own email down there as well. I wasn't so bold as to put Tuvana's just in case. I know she's a very busy lady, but if I can't answer, okay, I'll drop yours down then as well, Tuvana.
Tuvana.Pastine, yes. Please ask any questions. There will be questions coming to your mind after the event, maybe tomorrow,
absolutely,
the day after. Please do. I'll always welcome those questions.
Fantastic. And don't forget to sign up for the competition and you could win the amazing book.
And
listen,
do they have the email address there too?
What was it again? It was economics, was it?
Economics, DEPT for department.
DEPT.
Well, look, if not, you can just send an email to me and I'll.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope that is it. Economics DEPT@mu.ie. Fab. Listen, take care. Thank you so much to everyone. Thanks again. And we will send the recording out to anyone who wants it. Admissions@mu.ie. All right. Bye. Enjoy the rest of your evening.